committing crimes and possibly also being impacted by Prop 36?
Well, as the DA said, oftentimes those kids won't have the predicate crimes to get into the Prop 36 realm. But we would treat that call for service like we would treat any other call for service. Our officers would go, do a complete investigation, and make the arrest if it's appropriate. Now, there are different protocols for juveniles, and we would follow those protocols. I think the other thing that I would say about Torrance is we do have a community counseling aspect to our department where we do have our own diversion within our police department. We're also working on a partnership with the county to do just the same. Oftentimes, and especially if we can get to the youth in our community and drill down on what the root cause of their, why they're offending, maybe we can get them on a path that doesn't involve the criminal justice system if appropriate. And so we have taken the steps within our organization to really invest in trying to get to the root cause of those crimes and what causes juveniles to be in a situation where they're thinking about stealing. I mean, quite frankly, sometimes, and under previous rules of previous district attorneys, adults would use children to make those steps because they knew that they wouldn't be prosecuted. And so we want to go after the people that are making those juveniles be in those situations as well.
Thank you, Chief. Another important question from another Torrance resident, and that is for the DA and perhaps for the other panelists as well. How will the implementation of Proposition 36 interact with the governor's executive order directing mayors to remove homeless encampments statewide?
Interesting. So again, it goes to the overall notion of prosecution. One of those special directives that I mentioned before that existed with Mr. Gaston that we rescinded on my first day was what are called quality of life crimes. It's a whole range of misdemeanors, not just theft. It's criminal threats, trespass, loitering, low levels of violence and vandalism. And we basically, again, for 4 years, that wasn't being prosecuted. So if a police officer came up to a homeless encampment and saw what I just described going on, throw in some illegal drug use and throw in the theft, you know, if they wanted to go ahead and arrest, great, and then they bring the case to the DA's office for a declination. So very often, they would just keep walking, unless they saw a very serious crime occurring. Now the message is different to law enforcement. You come across a homeless encampment and they're doing these type of crimes, you can go ahead and enforce the law. But the Sheriff's Department has an excellent program that I've seen in action called the HOST program, H-O-S-T, Homeless Outreach Services Team. And what it is, it's deputy sheriffs that have been trained to deal with the homeless. They go out in sort of a big group with members of the Department of Mental Health, Vocational Services, Public Works, as a team approach. They institute a 5-point protocol. So I've seen them at Venice Beach, I've seen it at the Rio Hondo River, under the 101 freeways, and over at the VA in West Los Angeles. It's about an 8-week program. It's called Identify, which means literally shake the hands of everybody there, get their name, tell them who you are. Assess their needs. Okay, are you a veteran? Maybe we can get you a vet in the VA. You know, do you have you just lose a job? Is that why you're there? Why not the Department of Vocational Services here will find you a job? What can you do? Then you do outreach. You try to pair these people with the services and housing locations that have those services and try and make that match. But there's a 4th and 5th part of the protocol. You post a 14-day sign, and 14 days later, the trucks come, they put up all the tents and whatnot, they put it in the back of the truck and they stick it in a warehouse. They've been doing this since 2017, so that's what, 8 years? They've only had to arrest 2 people in 8 years. They've moved thousands. And the reason is, if you treat the homeless humanely, you try to figure out, as you were saying, what you can do to actually deal with the symptoms and the situation that got them to be homeless, and then marry the services with their needs, you don't have to arrest them. In fact, most of the people aren't even there after that, on that 14th day. They've already been moved into different facilities. So Proposition 36 gives us the tools to prosecute, but I've also seen incredibly successful programs that aren't bent or focused on prosecution, they're focused on actually trying to solve a problem.
Sheriff Luna, do you want to address Prop 36 as it relates to the homeless encampments?
the DA answered the question for me, talking about my host team. The only thing I'll add is that from going back to the county jail position that I hold, we've got to monitor the numbers. So we do have community members who will approach us and say, hey, if somebody's blocking the sidewalk or committing a quality of life issue, we want to put them in jail. And I think we have to be very cautious because if I have serious offenders in custody, in our care, do I let some of them go to make more room for somebody who committed a lower quality of crime? We gotta just find a balance, but I wanna emphasize, I go back to what I talked about in the very beginning, this treatment kind of approach where we focus with other departments on addiction and mental health, because we're not doing that now, and I think we're failing our community. We are failing the people who are homeless. We need to do better as a county. We need to approach it very differently, and that's the only way we're gonna reduce that count. And by the way, the count in the county is down about 4%. It doesn't sound like much, but it's better than what we were a year ago. So little by little, we'll keep on addressing it. But I think our deputy sheriffs, really all of them, even the ones working patrol, not only our host team, are doing a magnificent job out there under very difficult circumstances.
Thank you, Sheriff. And for the chief, what is the homeless situation here in Torrance, and how will the implementation of Prop 36 interact with the order directing mayors to remove homeless encampments?
Well, I would say that the governor's order really didn't have much of an impact, I think, on local municipalities. What I think it did move the needle on for sure is those concentration encampments that were on Caltrans properties or state property. It really compelled them to act more quickly and not allow those encampments to grow. We, in the city of Torrance, are very holistic in our approach to homelessness. One component of that is and I've mentioned this the second time I mentioned it because they wear many hats in our police department, but our community lead officer program or our CLOs, they are kind of like our front lines as it relates to response to homeless issues within the community that are reported, either reported through community members directly to the police department, or often our community members go directly with our elected officials to express their concerns about growing issues with the homelessness issues within the city of Torrance. And so they are tasked with triaging those complaints when they come in. They go out there and look at the situation. If enforcement is warranted, they absolutely take enforcement. And where Prop 36 would intersect with that is it oftentimes are unhoused, have addiction issues, and oftentimes they have mental health issues. Another prong of that approach from the Torrance Police Department would be to employ our Torrance Mental Health Evaluation Team, or TMET. We are fortunate in the city of Torrance to have a clinician, a mental health clinician, assigned to our police department who ride around with 2 police officers every day and triage people who are in mental health crisis, including those who are unhoused. And then the third prong here in the city of Torrance, which we're very fortunate to have as well, is in our city manager's office, we have a very robust non-enforcement related outreach program that is run through that office, where they avail them to services that finding out their veteran status and availing them to an avenue maybe to get them off the streets. In the parking lot of the police department, everybody's aware that we have temporary housing for the homeless, which we call 3290. And so our approach is to take a look at each individual situation and take the right enforcement action or the right diversion action to get the best movement for our residents.
Thank you very much.